All right, so the garden is in high gear here. So we are full on at the end of spring, going full bore towards summer. So that means all the spring crops are trying to produce as much produce as it can before the sun kills them off. So these are the peas. As you can hopefully see, lots of little pea pods all over the place. And you can also see when I first started this that these particular varieties, Sugar Ann, they are self-supporting, but I didn't fully believe that, and which is why I put all the string in there. And you can also see they've all fallen over. So and that's pretty much because that the plant cannot sustain the weight of the new pods that are on there, and eventually die thereafter. So it's not that big a deal. So then it becomes how to know when to pick the pea pods. Typically on normal plants, you see tomatoes turning red, or peppers turning green, or cabbages forming heads. Peas aren't as straightforward. So they all kind of look the same. They get to a certain size, but that size doesn't necessarily mean they're ready to be picked. A lot of this comes from feel. So if you were to feel this one, see how, I don't know if you can see, but you see that still, you can feel it still being a little moist in there, and that's good. Obviously this is a little smaller. If you were to feel it and it feels kind of like this one, feels like a more of a leather, it's gone a little too far. So, and you can see the size of these two are quite similar, but somehow you have to figure out when you're ready to be picked. So that's where the feel comes in. So if you can feel how big the peas are in the pod, it gives you an idea of when they're ready. So if I were to pick just a younger one, if I were to pick right this one, if you were to open up your pea pod, see how there's still kind of space in between the pea and the pod. This is certainly close to where it needs to be. You're essentially looking for how big that pod is in relation to the pea is to the pod. The more space it fills up, the more ready it is. Obviously the smaller it is. So if we were to go to the fully ripe one here, you see there's not that much space and these things are already kind of popping out. If I were to go to very small ones, I kind of broke it in half, but you see that, you can see a little bit better in there. You can see that the pea has not gone fully to its growth potential yet. So you're essentially going to be going around kind of squeezing them a little. If you feel like there's air in there, it still has room to grow, so you need to leave it. If it feels a bit leathery, it's gone too far, and they're still good. They just don't taste as sugary and as good as really ones that are picked right at the right amount of time. So this one's probably pretty perfect. Let me just peel it back here. So yeah, you can see there's a little space in between. It's perfect size for that sort of thing. So peas are great because you can get them in early. They grow in the cold and they grow quite quickly, and essentially as soon as the heat comes, the heat will kill them off, so that gets a nice transition into the next phase. The annoying thing about it is when you grow 700 plus plants like this, each of them probably have 4 or 5 pods, which means you have to kind of go around and pick one by one, which can be a bit time consuming, but that's what gardening is for. So that is how you pick peas.